Well, welcome to Surveillance. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on the bond sale. This is what we saw. So there were 3 tranches, and you can see a lot of them. This is a chart normalizing them. Egyptian 2025 Euro bonds outperforming a lot of the emerging markets. Why this sign of confidence?
Basically, the economic reform program Egypt is adopting, starting 2014 and more notably since our agreement with the IMF. Basically, we wanted to stop a period of very high budget deficit and accelerating debt level in relation to the GDP, and we wanted to turn this into more progressive and more positive way of doing this. So we're starting to reduce our budget deficit gradually, and we're reducing it this year to 10.8% in comparison to last year, 12.3%, and more importantly, reducing the primary deficit from 3.6% to 1.8% this year. So we're putting together a program to take the ailing condition that we were in into a more positive direction in the coming period of time.
Yeah, and I will ask you a little bit about some of the taxes or increasing government fees in just a second. Sure. But actually, what is the question that you got most by international investors? Were they asking you about the specific plan, or were they asking you about terrorism in the region?
Look, the most important thing that was, hampering the economy from moving ahead in a positive way was the situation of the foreign currency in the country. We had an exchange rate regime that is really putting a lot of pressure on the country, and we had a disparity between the official price and the market prices. The decision to float the country was to float the currency was very important in the sense that people would see a proper regime in that perspective, and that really helped the investor a great deal. Second thing is the process and procedures on the ground in terms of how we attract investment and how we really deal with whatever bureaucratic procedure that are taking place, red tapes, and all the difficulties the investor can face. So we're taking care of that, and we'll do our utmost in order to attract investors to the country.
Minister, how much of the sale was covered?
Basically, we got an order book of $11 billion, and we allocated $3 billion only. And if together with our issuance back in January, when we raised an order book of $13.5 billion, right, that amounts to $24.5 billion of order book, and we raised $7 billion combined. The more important issue here is the amount of demand on the 10 years and the 30 years, and that right, really reflects a great deal of vote of confidence in the economic reform program Egypt is adopting now.
So how many more bonds are you planning to sell in the coming year?
Not for now. At least we'll not come back to the market for 9 months. If anything, it could be second quarter of the calendar year 2018, between April and May, if we decide to come back again.
Minister, when do you actually expect the IPOs of some of the state-run companies or some of the state-run banks to take place?
We're expecting 2 or 3 in the next fiscal year. July, June 17, 18. We're expecting somewhere between 3 to 5 companies that can come to the market on that from the government.
And how much?
From the government part.
How much are you expecting to raise? Can you tell us the name of the companies?
There are names that are already announced, like Bank de Coeur, MP. It's a petroleum engineering company as well, and there are more companies that are under study now to take them to the market in the next fiscal year.
Right. And how much are you expecting to raise overall?
We're talking more or less around 10 to 15 billion in combined. We hope we can do that as early as we can.
Minister, I know you really laid out, of course, some of what you're trying to achieve, and it's very clear that the forefront of this is trying to plug the deficit. So does that mean that you will have additional taxes or increase in government fees? And when are you expecting those to take hold?
No more increase in the taxes. The only thing is that we have, by the law, that the VAT rate will increase from 13 to 14%. nothing will come out as additional fees except for maybe certain industries that we need to streamline their operation in a certain way, but nothing that will surprise people in terms of more additional tax rates or increase in tax rate in the coming period of time. No.
Minister, the other thing is that the government keeps on saying that fuel and electricity, of course, subsidy cuts are essential. But given inflation is around 23, 24, 25%, would you delay these cuts to give people a little bit of a breathing room?
From one perspective, inflation on annual basis is still high. On a month-over-month basis, it is slowing down. We expect this to continue. But the idea here for the subsidy is that this is a plan that is being preset by the government since 2014 to deal with the subsidy in a more efficient way, because we faced some time, or we faced in the last 15 years a way of giving subsidy in absolute terms that is really very harming to the economy and very harming to the people as well. That's why we need to deal with the subsidy issue in a more efficient way, and we need to ensure that it's well targeting and reaching those who deserve it the most.
But sir, can you give me a timeline? So when are the subsidy cuts?
It hasn't been yet decided on the timing.
But it could be 6 months, 9 months, or would you delay it until the situation stabilizes a bit?
Things are being studied because it is a number of things that we, I mean, the country has to look at. I mean, the system and the government has to look at a number of issues and how we can deal with this. How we can ensure that there is a social protection program to shield people from the impact of any economic reform program that we are adopting for now.
Minister, what do you make of Donald Trump coming to the Middle East and actually stopping Saudi Arabia and then going to Israel in his first foreign visit? Does it translate into a little bit more hope for the region?
We hope so. I mean, we were in a visit to the United States with the president last month, and it was a very positive visit, and we believe that more positive relationship will emerge from that situation, and we hope this would continue with the United States in terms of political and economic relationship to be in a positive tone and to be in a positive direction in comparison to the last 15 years.
Minister,